Hello, this is Zephyr Flippyderg, and today I want to talk to you about an awesome camera. This is the Nikon Z6. It's a really cool piece of kit. So this is a mirrorless camera. So it's the next step up from the DSLR camera. So the good thing about this is in DSLRs you have a mirror that goes flips up and down when you take a photo. This does not have a mirror, so that's one less thing that can possibly go wrong. But what else can this do? Well, this is also, as the name implies, Z. This uses the new Z mount lenses. You can actually still use your F mount lenses as well. So for example, on here you can see I've adapted my 50mm, which is an F mount lens, and I use something called an FTZ adapter. So this is the FTZ2, and yeah, what essentially does is gets you access to all the F mount lenses dating back to the 1950s and 60s. Obviously lenses before a certain date, or the ones without certain AF motors, the older lenses, they will not autofocus, so you're going to have to focus manually. And also some cameras do have the aperture rings, some lenses do have the aperture rings, so again with those you're going to have to do those manually. But for anything with a CPU lens though, like for example AFS or anything of that kind of caliber, yeah, it's going to perform really well. Comparing this to my previous camera, I can definitely tell like the low light performance is a lot better. So for example, if I take out my 70 to 300 lens, which is usually like an f 4.5, I found it's actually a lot more capable on the Z6. For example, I can go around like my house, go around other places, and it still is like brilliant. Otherwise on my older camera I'd have to only use it for like outside, daytime, etc. So with this I have a lot more flexibility. So it does have some rather nifty little features. There's a little LCD screen on here, which is cool. Shows you like the aperture, shots remaining, etc. Shows different things depending on what settings you do. So for example, when you change the exposure compensation, then you'll see that change on the indicator as well. Some of the more advanced lenses, they even have like little screens on themselves as well. Some of it is like a gimmick kind of thing, but yeah, there are good reasons for it too. So then in photo mode, you'll have things like it'll tell you what autofocus mode you're using. It'll have like a little indicator for battery life. Says yeah what your settings are and everything. Some of them you can change on demand. If you want to focus in on a certain part of a scene, what you can do is you can either adjust it using like a little control stick, or what you can also do is even touch the screen on that part. So kind of like what you can do with some smartphones as well. Touch a particular part of the screen and it'll set that as the focus point, and of course you can always cancel that and change that afterwards as well. So that's really cool. Speaking of battery life, so the thing about mirrorless cameras is because you are using electronic components, the battery life will drain faster than like a traditional DSLR, but it kind of depends what mode you want to use as well. If you are primarily using the screen on the back, that is going to use more battery power. If you're just having it on standby mode or using like the little the V piece at the top, that's going to use a little bit less battery. And obviously if you have it like on a quick standby mode, you're probably only going to it'll literally come on when you try and take something, and then when you have the hand to the side, then it'll go back in standby mode. So it'll preserve power that way. With the newer Z cameras, you can actually charge them via USB-C as well. So if you have the right battery type, then you can actually charge them that way. Otherwise, what you do is you just use a standard battery. So this, for example, is the standard EL15 Nikon battery. So it'll work in like a lot of the DSLRs. With that, so that's like the traditional one. Usually sets you back about like £20. For the USB-C charging ones, they tend to go for like a fair bit more, but then you do get that option to charge via a USB cable as well, which is really cool. In terms of the different ports and things, you've got like the standard microphone port. You've got the I think it's the mini HDMI. It also has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built in as well, so you can connect it to your phone via SnapBridge and transfer photos off that way, which is pretty cool. And of course it does have the hot shoe mount at the top, so if you're going to use a flash unit or anything else like a microphone or anything else, you can certainly do that with this, as with all cameras. And it does have the screw mount at the bottom for tripods and the like as well, which is pretty cool. In terms of the controls, it has the same on-off switch that most Nikon cameras tend to have. It has a nice simplified little rotating ring as well on the top. So you've got, for example, the classic manual aperture shutter priorities, and also you have up to 3 user settings, so you can choose up to whatever settings you find you use the most. In terms of the video capabilities, this one can do up to 4K 30 FPS. That is in FX mode and DX mode if you happen to use any crop lenses. Just be aware, if you do take photos with a crop lens on this camera, the megapixel will be reduced to about 10 megapixels, so you'll lose a bit of quality. So just be careful. If just kind of know what you're going to use that for, and just make sure you're not losing out important detail. The other type of video you can do is you can actually do a 1080p 60 FPS, or you can even do 120 FPS if you want to do some kind of like a slow motion function as well. So you can actually do that. And of course it does the standard things. You can do like time lapses, you can do like long exposure, etc. So that works on that as well. The other thing about this camera is it's nice and light as well. Even with something like the FTZ adapter and a traditional F lens, it's still like fairly light. I'd imagine when I do get around to buying some of the native Z lenses, Z lenses, I think the weight obviously change a bit. I know some of the prime lenses will be quite small, so they'll be quite lightweight. But I've also heard some of the other the zoom lenses can be light as well, depending on what you do. Obviously, any lens, say greater than like about 100 or 200 focal length, they tend to be like the big, like the two-hander weighty ones that you kind of use a tripod for. But for anything hand-holdable, this is fine. You can even put it on a Peak Design strap like I have, or like a neck strap, or even like a chest rig as well. All those options work really well. As for the price, at the time of recording, I bought this for about £770, which is pretty decent, considering I think originally it was about like $2,000 when it came out. So obviously the price has come down quite a bit. If you do want a camera that's slightly better than this one, you have a few options. I think Z7 is one of the options. Otherwise, you can also upgrade to the Z6 II or the Z7 II. Obviously, that adds like an extra, almost like an extra grand on top of that. So just be mindful of what you're buying, because even with like a Z5 or a Z6, these are still really good cameras. So, to answer the question, should you buy the Z6 in 2024? I would say yeah, it's a good camera. Have to admit, if you are more into like the hobby kind of side and just want to play around, what you might want to do is go for one of like the higher end Nikon DSLR cameras. So for example, in the D7000 range, probably could go with either the 7200, maybe even 7500. Failing that, on the other side of the spectrum, then you've got things like the D750 for video, D8100 for good photos, and if you want both video and photos, then there's the D850, which is pretty good. Obviously, if you're happy with bigger camera frames and stuff as well, then you could maybe go with like a D5 or a D6, but yeah, I am super happy with this. Can't wait to get some good Z lenses for it. I've got some good ideas of which ones I'm going to get. But yeah, thank you for watching the video. Hope that helps. If you have any questions, do leave them in the comments. And yeah, until then, see you next time. Have a good one. Bye bye. Hello everybody. Thank you for watching the video. Please make sure to like and subscribe and ring that bell if you want to get notified about future videos. In the meantime, catch you next time. Stay safe.